Hello and welcome to another episode of the program. I'm Simi Solatigo. Well, after a fierce battle between 16 candidates vying to represent the All Progressives Congress APC in the state's November 14 governorship election, Lucky AIYEDATIWA has emerged victorious in the primary polls. The chairman of the election committee and the governor of Kogi State, Usman Ododo, declared AIYEDATIWA the winner of the exercise. AIYEDATIWA made a resounding victory after winning 16 of the 18 local government areas to book a ticket for November's governorship election. The elections took place across 203 wards of the 18 local government areas of the state, where AIYEDATIWA amassed 48,569 votes in the primary to beat his closest rival, Mayowa Akin Folarin, who polled 15,343 votes in the election to make him the APC flag bearer. AIYEDATIWA has since extended an olive branch to other contestants in order for the party to work together and become victorious for the November governorship elections in the state. However, some of the contestants have threatened legal action after rejecting the results and calling for cancellation, alleging irregularities in the conduct of the ward primaries across the 203 wards of the state. Well, to discuss this further, political affairs analyst Nelson Ekujimi is my guest on the program. Thank you very much for speaking to me. Now, 16 contenders jostled for the same ticket. Are you surprised that the incumbent AIYEDATIWA won this election?
Well, thank you very much for having me. Absolutely not. One is not surprised because if you look back, you recognize that it was a fierce battle between these 16, contestants. And also, if you look deeper, you recognize that there was this hide and seek game, to prevent AIYEDATIWA, when he was a deputy governor, from becoming the acting governor. And when he eventually became the acting governor, he succeeding his boss, who was who was ill, there was this fear that he had a governorship ambition, and those who were on the other side of the divide, in trying to stop him, made every attempt, to also went the other way of trying to impeach him, even as the deputy governor. But because the man is a child of destiny, we have all seen how he weathered the storm, and when the preparations for the election was, gathering momentum, some of the contestants that that have lost now were peddling information that that they were the chosen one. But lo and behold, we saw clearly from what transpired that there was no chosen one. It was mainly based on the party delegates who have elected or chosen AIYEDATIWA far and above other 15 contestants. And one is not surprised that some of these contestants are angry, they are bitter, that they are calling for cancellation of the process. But be that as it may, one must admonish them to recognize that a party has structures for resolving grievances, and whatever grievances they have with regards to the conduct of the election held on Saturday and Sunday, that they will make use of the party's internal, dispute resolution mechanism. But by and large, that AIYEDATIWA emerged is no surprise because it was the incumbent governor. And being a governor has political, has spiritual, and also has physical connotations. And those are some of the factors that propelled him to defeat his opponents.
So you feel that the power of incumbency worked in favor of AIYEDATIWA this time?
Absolutely, because when you are a governor, you are the chief executive officer of the state. You have structures that the office of governor naturally will make gravitate towards your office, and because you're a governor, you control so many things. You call the shots, and it is very, very difficult for somebody to be a governor and not to be in sync with the political dynamics in the state. And I'm sure those were the factors that AIYEDATIWA exploited, being the incumbent governor, to have emerged as the winner of the governorship primaries of his party. So being the governor worked very, very well for him.
Yes, now let's discuss the action of some of the other contenders who are alleging that the process was fraught with irregularities and that the guidelines of the party were not followed. They are now calling for cancellation of the election results. If not, they will take legal action. Do you think that this move might affect the party during the November elections?
Well, it all depends on how the party itself, as well as the candidate who has emerged, that's the governor, how they handle the matter. Because between now and November, we are talking about 7 months, if I'm correct, a lot of water would have passed under the bridge. You recognize that some of these contestants who are crying foul now, some of them might be looking for, reconciliation, might be looking for negotiation to be appeased. So one expects that as much as they have a right to be angry, they have a right to reject a process if they are not satisfied. We must always admonish that whenever we are dissatisfied with a process, we should explore the legal means. And when I'm talking about legal means, I'm talking about the party internal mechanisms. Because I'm sure when the party set up the committee to oversee the elections, they also set up a committee to resolve grievances that might arise. Because whatever man is involved in can never be perfect.
Yes.
There will definitely be flaws. So whether those flaws are enough to warrant cancellation of the primaries is what we expect these contestants to avail whatever committee or mechanism the party has put in process to resolve it, to table before that committee to be able to convince them that, look, the flaws in this election far outweighs where it went well, so this election must not be allowed to stand. So it's within the party's purview to decide on that, and not for the candidates themselves, the contestants themselves.
Right now, so AIYEDATIWA has extended an olive branch to these other contenders, asking for their support for the success of the elections come November. Shouldn't this have made a difference in the whole, stop them from taking this legal step that they want to go for?
Well, you must recognize that what AIYEDATIWA has done is what is expected of any leader. That when you are going into a battle, you need all your arsenal. You need all members, of your army to be on a united front. And for those who are still crying foul, the ball is not in the court of AIYEDATIWA to display that sportsmanship in reaching out to them, in assuaging their pains, in making them realize that, look, whatever happened was for our collective good. You can be rest assured that whatever interest you have, so long as it aligns with the interests of the people of Ondo State, you are home and dry with this government. You are part of this government if we eventually succeed at the polls in November. So it's not unexpected that even when he extends this olive branch, some of the contestants might turn a deaf ear and say it's either we have a repeat or I want to go my way. And don't even be surprised that some of these contestants who lost in these primaries, tomorrow morning we might wake up and realize that they have decamped to another party and they are now the flag bearer of that party for November elections. So the ball is now in the court of AIYEDATIWA to rally as much forces he can get of these his fellow contestants to be in his ship so that they can both weather the November storm when the gubernatorial election in the state eventually holds.
Well, the appeal committee set up by the national leadership of the APC says it has received 3 petitions over the ONDO APC governorship primary. Now, do you see this agitation favoring other parties in the state, and how do you think it can be properly addressed?
One, I must confess to you, I was in the state recently and I've been, traversing the state. I can tell you for free, I don't see how any other party can benefit from this, issue that is still generating from the election, which is natural. When any election holds, even persons who don't have reasons to be aggrieved will just jump on the bandwagon. Oh, I no go agree. like we say in our local parlance.
Yeah.
You know, it's natural, you know, because we have seen it repeatedly in our political system. If you ask me, I don't think other parties in the state are up and doing, and that is why you recognize that the focus was majorly on the ruling party. One would have expected the opposition parties to have also, you know, raised up the ante, but I'll tell you for free that they are almost non-existent in
well, all
state.
those other opposition parties are battling internal crisis as we speak as
well. So definitely you can see that this issue that has arisen in the APC, for now you can't call it a crisis because it has not, you know, splitted the ranks. What you are hearing is that people within the party who contested an election and are aggrieved that, you know, they lost are complaining using the party mechanism. So it's a natural phenomenon that people will, you know, definitely write petitions to the committee for resolving, you know, disputes that might arise from the elections. And you telling me now that only 3 contestants have, you know, put up a petition. It makes me wonder what happened to all the other ones, you know, that have been crying foul. Is it that they don't have the fact, or maybe by tomorrow morning the numbers would have swollen up. Yes, but be that as it may, I don't see this, you know, as an opportunity for other parties, you know, to latch onto, because I was in the state on Saturday and Sunday, and you need to see the huge turnout. Don't forget, like I stated earlier on, the incumbency factor of the governor was a very, very strong factor.
Okay. All right. So speaking of this incumbency, let's prophesy here, or should I say, do you see AIYEDATIWA winning this election?
Oh, well, you know, like late Chief M.K. Abiola said, that 24 hours is a long time in politics. And the party that Governor AIYEDATIWA belongs to is also the party at the center. And I'm sure whatever Governor AIYEDATIWA is doing, the party at the center will also be looking at it to ensure that, you know, they come out tops in the gubernatorial election in November. Don't forget that the party is also angling to take over power from the PDP in Edo State, which will be holding its own gubernatorial elections in September. And if the party wants to continue to hold sway politically, it is expected that they will rally all forces to ensure that they come out tops. As we speak, I'm sure Governor AIYEDATIWA will be, you know, looking into his books, putting up plans to endear him to the people of the state before the gubernatorial elections in November. He'll be looking out to do things that will make the people want to vote for him to continue to remain in office. Sure. And so it is not unlikely that he will win the elections come November 2024.
We anxiously wait for the results in November. Political affairs analyst Nelson Ekujimi, thank you for sharing your thoughts on this.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
We'll take a short break now and return shortly, speaking to another guest to stay with us. Welcome back. We're still discussing the results of the ONDO APC governorship primary elections, where Lucky AIYEDATIWA has been declared winner. I'm now joined by legal expert Evans Ufeli to speak more on it. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Ufeli. Now, some of the 16 candidates in the election you must have heard are threatening legal action, because according to them, the guidelines of the APC were not followed and then the election was marred. Do they stand a chance in court if they proceed?
Yes, as long as the persons who are going to court are participants, those who contested the election. Because if you look at the Electoral Act, Electoral Act 2020, that's the new Electoral Act we're using now, you must have contested at the election to have local standard to contest the outcome. So some of the party members and some of the contestants have, aired their grievances that there were no election whatsoever. Some of them have gone as far as saying that there were no accreditation, there were no list of delegates, nothing of such that happened that you can be attributed to election, even though the APC in Ondo State have adopted a direct election, primaries, because the Electoral Act had given 3 different options: direct, indirect, and consensus candidates. But in the case under reference, they chose direct, and it appears that the irregularities that marred the process is responsible for the grievances that have been created, and parties are yearning to go to court. Of course, whoever is not happy with the outcome of the primary election can actually approach the court. That's the law. You can approach the court for redress. And they have chances if they're able to prove their case. Proving their case would mean they will have to prove to the court that there was substantial non-compliance with the Electoral Act, and that substantial non-compliance affected the outcome, that there were no delegates, no lists, no accreditation, no votes, and part of which the areas were marred with violence in the whole process. 18 local government areas, and the AIYEDATIWA got out of the 18, 16, won 16, and with 48,000 plus votes. The second person came out with 16,000 plus, and the third 15,000 plus, and so on.
Right. Some others are also of the impression that the APC is likely to lose in the Ondo governorship election come November if the primary that was held is not cancelled. I mean, could this happen if the party goes ahead with this result, that's with AIYEDATIWA as the flag bearer of the APC?
Well, there's a sense in which those who are affected, who are aggrieved, will usually have to register their displeasure in the court of law. But in this case, the court will not rule out the primaries completely. Because in cases where the court used to rule out primaries completely is where you have one election with multiple winners, just as you have in Edo APC, or you have parallel elections. If you remember, there was time that 2 states, Zamfara and River States, the APC lost those 2 states in terms of the governorship election, where the Supreme Court held that they should not be allowed to feed in candidates because of the parallel primaries they have. But in this case, there were no parallel primaries. It's one primaries, but the irregularity and the allegations are that there were no election really in the process. So the court in its wisdom will look at the best way to look at the issue, but I don't think the court would disqualify the entire party from the process. I don't think so.
Now, do you think that this could favor other parties vying for the governorship seats in the state? I mean, if the agitation is not properly addressed.
Yeah, if they will have to at some point resolve this amicably, because all the other parties who lost, what they are saying that there was no election. They are not even saying that they won. They won the election and not AIYEDATIWA. They are not saying that. Many of them have listened to that have been interviewed are saying there was no election. And the implication of that to the party, they are also shooting their party indirectly. Because if their grounds were that they got, or one of them had the highest number of votes cast and not AIYEDATIWA, then you have a breadth of validity that the election actually held, but that the person whom they say won did not win, where somebody else won. You have a head of group. But when all the contestants are out there saying there was no election, it poses a threat to the political party. It's a threat to that political party itself. Because if they assemble enough witnesses within the same party, their own party, to tell the court that, you see, our party, there was no election actually. There was no election. So it means that the party came to court to report itself. So there's a likelihood that the court may take a very drastic decision to that effect. So that is why they will need to make sure that this particular case is resolved in-house. You see, the Electoral Act gave an option. The option is that it's either you do direct election, you do indirect, or you do consensus, as long as the candidate who will concede must put it in writing. Those are the three options. Now, APC in Ondo State chose direct election. But from the allegations and the, discrepancies and cries we're hearing, the party members themselves, many of them are saying, you know what, this primaries, there was no election whatsoever. And if this is the way they are going to keep on until they get to court, it will not only affect AIYEDATIWA, it will also affect the political party itself. You understand? So many of them have called for the resignation of Ododo, who happens to be the chairman who conducted that election. And they have accused him of incompetence and all whatnot. You understand? And even the PDP opposition party have come out to make a public statement as to how that the APC had a joke last Saturday and not an election.
So finally, let's discuss how this there hasn't been an election in the country that has not had this aftermath of people heading to court because they disagree with the results. Now, what do you think is the way forward out of this pattern?
The way forward is that if a political party has adopted a model for their primary selection, that model must be followed through. You cannot follow it halfway. That is why you have three options. You understand?
Yes.
You have three options. But remember, there are those who also contend heavily that there was actually an election in this same primaries we're talking about. And they are out there and they are speaking too. Okay? So the way forward is that let them submit their grievances to litigation, because we cannot advise otherwise, or mediation. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Of course, if they submit to litigation or mediation, the court will take a look at what transpired, whether it met the requirement of a primary election. If it didn't meet the requirement, then the court can take a decision based on law in a situation like this, where there have been an exercise that turned out to be valid or invalid. So that is the way to go. Go to court and resolve it. We cannot advise that they take the laws into their hands. That's one. Two, the party must be sure of what it's going to court to litigate. Because if they are going to court to report themselves as a political party that is incapable of conducting a primary election, the outcome the court will give will affect the party negatively. So this calls for wisdom, that a party must conduct itself in ways that they will not end up shooting themselves and creating a situation where they will now be disadvantaged in the general election itself coming up in November.
Legal expert Evan Tufeli, many thanks for sharing your thoughts.
You're welcome.
Well, that's how much we can take on this episode of the program. Many thanks for watching. See you next time.